I have a lot of guns, and I know that that shocks many of you. Many of them have a specialized purpose. Some of them are simply cool things that I wanted to own, and then some of them have very specific purposes. Some of them are for testing various aspects of the work that I do, and other ones are literally my defensive tools that I carry on a day-to-day basis. And that is the subject of today's video. The title was something along the lines of I carry 3 guns, and not necessarily all at the same time. Probably my maximum is 2 at any given time, but I wanted to do a video today walking through the 3 different guns that are currently in my carry rotation as of August 2024, and give you an idea of why I've selected those items. And to do that, we're going to do some shooting on plates, do some chronograph work to give you an idea of the difference in the ballistic capabilities of those guns, and then we'll shoot them on some targets just to see how far we can reach out and touch things with them. That said, without further ado, the first entry in the LCP category, or what I call the little crappy pistol category, is my Sig P365. So this is the weapon that I carry when I am absolutely trying to conceal it to the maximum degree. Like I'm going to a public event out and there's a crowd and I want to make sure that I'm printing as little as possible. I was just at an event this past weekend. I don't want to give a high profile or be printing a firearm through my clothing, so what I was carrying was this thing right here. This is the P365, doesn't have any other designators on it. This actually was purchased before the P365 XL came out, which is, in my opinion, a more superior firearm, although it is just ever so slightly larger. Now, I will have the specs on screen for those of you who are interested in that kind of nerdy stuff. But the other thing that I would say about this thing is it represents, where is my magazine? It represents an innovation in magazine technology in that this gun holds 10 rounds in the magazine, which typically for a firearm of this class size, we were talking a sub count of somewhere around 7, 8 in some cases, sometimes less than that for a firearm that is very thin and very concealable. The upgrades when it comes to like the 365 XL, you get an optics cut and a little bit more barrel. So it's going to give you slightly more velocity. This gun is outfitted with the big dot sights from XS. You guys know that I'm a big XS fan. And this one is no different. This is the one that has the yellow photoluminescent ring, the tritium, and then the tritium strip in the back. Moving up in the world, we have an off-brand Glock, and this is a Glock 19 size firearm. The Glock 19 is known around the world basically as the quintessential carry firearm. So this is the gold standard as far as size and weight and capability is concerned. Again, specs on screen for those of you who are interested in that. This one holds 15 in the magazine, and I forgot to mention, I suppose, that I carry all of these guns in the appendix configuration. So that's kind of like an important facet for me, being able to cram that in the front, and that's because of training experiences that I've had. I think that the rear carry position is obsolete, and basically we shouldn't do that anymore. But that's another discussion for another day. If you want to see that video, then we can totally do that. This one's a little bit different than your stock Glock 19 in that it has some other things that have been done with the frame, like the gas pedals here on the side, the aggressive stippling. This part of the grip can actually be changed out to different configurations instead of the back straps that you're used to seeing on Glocks. And then of course, as far as upgrades, as far as the sights are concerned, XS sights again, but these are not the big dots. These are more of the traditional notch and post sight. They still have the photoluminescent ring and the tritium, but the rear is backed out and serrated. And the reason that this gun, even though I carry this gun the most because it's the most applicable year-round, I also use this gun for work, doing things on the range, and sometimes there are shots that I would like to take at like 150, 200 yards for a demonstration or something like that, and The big dot sight, it's a little bit harder to do. That's pretty much the limit on the big dot sight versus something like their notch and post sight. It's a little bit finer of a sight. I'm not saying that it can't be done with the big dots, it's just easier to do on the fly with my aging eyes. So the Glock 19. This is a Canik TP9 SFX. Now this is the long slide version of the Canik TP9, and this is actually a older vintage gun than those ones. This is, I think that this is like a 2016, 2017 gun, something like that. And the ones that they're making now are a little bit different, but the way that they did the optics ready capability on this firearm, they basically take the whole rear sight assembly with it. And then there were plates that you sink down in there, and that determines what your optics footprint is. It sets the optic a little bit higher than typically, and I don't really like that in this pistol, so I typically don't run it with optics on it for that reason. I like those optics, when they are integrated, to be sunk down as far as we possibly can. And you can see they've taken a healthy chunk out of the slide to accomplish that. And the reason they've taken such a healthy chunk is because they have that plate underneath there as well. I have integrated more excess sights. These are the big dot sights, but these are not the photoluminescent ones. These are of a vintage, also aligned with the pistol before they started doing the photoluminescent ring around it. So this is just a white ring. It does not glow in the dark or anything, but it does have a tritium vial, and there is a tritium vial back here as well. This long slide, again, I'll have all of the specs on screen, but one of the things that's great about a long slide is not only do you get longer sighting radius so that it's easier to shoot, you get higher velocities so the gun shoots flatter out the distance, bigger magazine. This magazine holds 18, which when you empty one of these, it feels like you're shooting forever. But this gun also comes factory with a +2 base plate, quite a bit of firepower. So anyway, that said, let's go ahead and bring up the chronograph so we can see kind of what the difference between all of the different barrel lengths are and what we're getting out of standard ammunition. One thing that I forgot to mention in the last segment, you'll notice that one of those pistols had optics ready capability, but it didn't have an optic on it. And indeed, if you were to look at most of the pistols in the vault, they don't have optics on them. Every once in a while, I'll put an optic on a gun when I'm out here testing it for video purposes and evaluation purposes. But generally speaking, if it goes into the carry rotation, then those guns don't have optics on them. And some people freak out about that. Some people get upset. Other people don't care. What I have to say about that is your gun, your way, you do you. The way that you want to do it, different strokes for different folks. My response for why I don't do that is very simple, and that is that I have a terrible astigmatism. I remember when the MRO came out, I was standing in the Trigicon booth when it was announced, and they were like, yeah, it's the crispest dot that we've ever made. And I looked at it, looked at the rep, and I was like, yep, looks like shit, just like everything else that's available out there. And he was like, cool it, bro, I can't see. It's not your guys' fault. So that's just why I don't do that. Now, let's go ahead and get to the chronograph. I have the P365 first, and we're going to be shooting a 124 grain full metal jacket round from Fiocchi. Glock 19. Canik. All right, so now we're going to do a little bit of recoil and recovery, and for the sake of making it visually pleasing, I've directed us in the direction that the plates are. So what I want to draw your attention to, though, is how the gun recoils. How much of the gun is doing this and how much of it is doing this. So we're going to start with the P365. I forgot to mention the distance, 20 yards. I've decided also that instead of a full magazine, we're gonna shoot 10, and then we can also use this as a how bad does Kurt shoot with each gun. If we use the same number of rounds, then we can basically say, well, he missed this many times with the P365, he missed that many times with the Glock 19, you know, et cetera, et cetera. You guys get what I'm doing. All right, so 10 rounds, Glock 19. Many of you will not know that VSO actually stands for very shitty operators. I never said that I was any good at this. Canik. Can I just say that this gun hits considerably harder than the other two, which kind of goes along with the velocity data that we saw, a slight increase in velocity. I've got an idea. We'll finish this first though. So what I have here is a pepper popper. That thing is calibrated to fall down, and I've calibrated that particular one some weeks ago to fall down with 380. So we're shooting it with 9mm today, so it should go down considerably faster, but I'm gonna shoot it with each of these pistols, knock it down, and see if we can see a discernible difference between the hitting power of something like the TP9, the full length or extended length slide, excuse me, then a full slide and a sub slide. So here we go. One round, 124 grain. We're gonna aim at the center circle. That's important. All the shots gotta go there. I'll splice all those together with some movie magic and see if there's a difference. Anyway, we're out of daylight, as you guys can see. Thank you for tuning into the VSO Gun Channel. I had a great time filming today's video. And remember, if you guys have questions, I might have an answer. So leave them down below and I'll see if I can get to them. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully we'll see you on another video here at the VSO Gun Channel.